You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy. This week on Carlie's Couch, we discuss healthy ways to release anger.
Welcome to Carlie's Couch. My name is Lextopia.
CC Fierce / Carlie Carpio coming in strong.
Coming in real hot.
Hot. I'm excited for this sun, y'all. It feels great outside. Outside of a little bit like gray in the mornings, it's starting to come out.
It's been interesting. I'm not mad at the grayness as long as it's not like super rainy. So that's cool with me.
Mm-hmm. But before we hop into the important discussion about anger, we're going to discuss this week's question from the couch, which is, if you could make any taste into an ice cream flavor, what would it be?
I feel like we got a lot of good realistic responses. Some of my favorites being fortune cookie. I feel like I could see that. Funnel cake, fried plantain, like things like that. I was like, ooh, that's a good idea.
Yep. And then we got some that are actually already ice cream flavors. So Southern Peach Cobbler, a couple people, red velvet cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory, butter cake. I know a few good butter cake brands and some vegan ones.
Butter cake ice cream?
Bread pudding. Got that twice as well.
Okay. And then we got a couple of essential oils. So somebody said sandalwood ice cream, which I don't necessarily feel like that's a good idea. But
maybe
cool.
woody, nutty a little bit.
And then somebody was like patchouli and walnut. Like how there's a little lavender and a latte. I like that you added that extra explanation because now I'm like, okay, maybe just a little oomph on your ice cream. Maybe.
And then I like where someone was going with dew, because when I was thinking about it, like fresh morning dew or something like that would be a nice like scent to be able to, or a nice like thing to be able to eat as an ice cream.
I feel like dew flavor ice cream would be like cucumber, which also that would be like a sorbet or something. But I do think that freshness would be good.
That would definitely have some kind of freshness.
That's what I would call dew. I would really make it cucumber. Anything else? Cinnamon Biscoff cookie is cool. I don't know what a boysenberry is for real.
I've seen boysenberry ice cream. So, I mean, sorry, not to like discredit you because maybe you haven't seen it, but like I've actually never seen a boysenberry, but I've seen boysenberry like jam and ice cream. And then someone also said Mexican churro. I don't know if you said that earlier. And then the last one, someone was being funny. So I love to cook and I love to bake. And so maybe like last year I was trying new kind of cookies. And when I bake a bunch of stuff, I usually show up to wherever I am with extra cookies. It's very random, but I do it. And I gave one of my friends one. And she called me. She was like, "Dog, can you make me cookies?" She was like, "I will pay you." She paid me last year to make her like 3 sleeves of the same cookie dough.
So what was it?
So she could freeze it. They're everything cookies. So they have like cornflakes in them, marshmallows, like chocolate chips. But it's a really nice brown butter dough. I love, So she was like, Carlie's cookies plus a peach crumble. So
that does sound good. Was it the consistency? Was it like a Rice Krispie cake, or what do you call those things? Like it has so much stuff.
It's a cookie. Yeah,
kind of like an oatmeal raisin, and it just has some stuff.
It's like a cookie with more so like kind of the stuff on top. It doesn't take away the integrity of the actual cookie base, but when you bite into it, like you might pull away and have the little marshmallow or whatever.
Okay, yeah, and I feel like any baked good can easily be turned into an ice cream. So some of these, I feel like we can.
What about like a savory, like a croissant ice cream?
And it's like buttery. That could be good too. I mean, I feel like anything could be good in the right combination. So, I don't know. Thanks for your ideas. I'm rocking with most of them.
And if you have an ice cream company, get on it.
Right. So we are talking about anger this week. I've actually been dealing with a lot of anger recently, but I remember that we spoke about anger before in another episode. Which episode was that?
207. It's called Heated. How to deal with chronic anger.
Okay, so obviously for me, it's probably still the same chronic anger from episode 207. So that means it's been over a year, but that's cool. Anyway, so let me jot that down for the therapist next time. However, this is important because in this episode, we're kind of a little bit more so speaking to when like the anger arises, what to be doing with that, and how we can get over and process anger, because anger is one of those things where it can be explosive and it can be easy to have like a consequence that affects others negatively. And yet it's still important to feel, and anger is an important emotion. Actually, asking you questions, Carlie, like talk about anger and like why anger is an important emotion. Like what is that for us?
Anger is such a healthy emotion. I think that we label it bad often, and we get in trouble whenever we explode, right? Like, stop being angry. You have no right to be angry.
Or even if you say I'm angry, it's like that's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing, but it's actually not. Anger is a healthy thing, and it lets you know when you feel like you're missing something. So anger is like what they call a secondary emotion, meaning it's usually hiding you from a more vulnerable emotion underneath, like sad, disappointed, hurt, vulnerable, whatever the thing is. It's like anger is like the big scary monster protecting you from that thing underneath it. And oftentimes we're not taught how to healthily deal with it. And so it can turn into chronic anger, rage, all those things. But also whenever we never learn how to properly process and deal with anger, it becomes, it can cause diseases in our bodies. And so that's really what made me want to re-talk about anger, because I was like, I don't think we talk about healthy ways to release anger and to let go and process things outside of like, oh, journal. Okay, great.
Right. And in this time, I feel like it's easy to suppress it. And, you know, you just kind of move on, or you're trying to think about other things or whatever. And yet anger is one of those things, like sometimes it just arises, or like you said, maybe it's connected to other points where you might be triggered by something and then you just get really angry. So it's very important to address it, because it is one of those emotions that just stays in the body, similar to like how stress is.
Yeah, and it's so debilitating. Like if they look at the number one link between autoimmune diseases and cardiovascular, a lot of it happens in women, specifically Black and brown women. And so I'm trying to think of, I think that because we don't have healthy outlets, that's when it turns into chronic anger, because then we're not allowed to be angry. So we never actually go through the steps to process and deal with all of our anger. And then it becomes like internal. So it might be sometimes in the form of a really negative voice, like to yourself. It could be if you're like fight, flight, or freeze, but you're not necessarily outward. You could be really angry and raging inside. And I think about myself, and I was laughing because I wasn't going to talk about this, but because I didn't even think about it till last night. My line sister sent me a meme, and it was like a little Delta meme, and it was like, "Lil Miss Nuck if you buck." And I was laughing. I was like, "Aha, thanks, Tell, love you." She was like, "LOL." But yeah, I didn't realize I was angry in undergrad, because I'm a happy person, but I had never dealt with the anger in my childhood. So I had a lot of like pent up anger, and it would only come out at certain times, drinking sometimes. Not that I was like super angry with people, but I would be like, Miss Nuck if you buck, for no reason. Like, damn, why she dynamite all of a sudden? And I didn't realize that. I didn't know. And it was only like since then I can laugh at those things, like, and I'm still ready to get to it if I need to, but I don't have that anger. But it's only because I've learned how to process it.
That's so funny, because I was exactly the same way. And that's why in undergrad I took up rugby, because I was like, man, I need to figure out a way to like let go of my aggression. Because there was with this one girl in my college, I didn't really have no reason to dislike her. It felt like we just had this invisible beef for no reason. Like we both just didn't really like each other.
Like that.
And I used to always tell my friend, like, ooh, I hope tonight's the night that she rub up on me wrong at the party. Like, you know, you be hyped when you go. Like that's every college party. I'd be like, well, I hope she stepped on my foot the wrong way so I could just go crazy. Like I was ready. Like I wanted to just like wild out. And so actually same. And perhaps for a lot of people, those college and young adult type years are some of the angriest, I feel, probably because during high school and teenage years is where like a lot of emotions and things are affecting you heavily. And so it probably is. That's where you have to start figuring out how to process like a little bit more childhood stuff and all that as you're starting to get away from, you know, staying with family and being on your own and all of that, right? And being around all these new people from all different places in college. So I could see how that young adult time is really where you got to figure out like what's what and where, you know, some of your things are coming from. So that makes sense, actually. But yeah, anger is no bueno if it is kept inside. And I would also venture to say it just doesn't even feel good. Similarly, like that's actually what happened to me a few weekends ago, is that I was just drinking way too much, and like I just be mad. And then later I'm like, I know, like I'm not angry at the people. It's just, I don't know, it's just those things inside of you, just like that's where your kind of insecurities start coming out, or you just want to like throw jabs at people and stuff like that. So yes, it even still can affect us, of course, to this day. So how do we get rid of all this? What are we doing next?
Yeah, and yes, it's a liquid courage for a lot of things. And some of them maybe not so great, but I'm glad it's like a good recognition point. So if you can see yourself in any of these stories, or you notice maybe the same things, yeah,
especially if you think you're not angry, and then if you're the type of person, I believe for sure, if when under the influence or and in certain spaces or places, then stuff comes out, like, then there's something to address. There's something to process or figure out. And I know for me, I'm in the process of figuring out, like, okay, so what do you do?
I was about to say, yeah, and even if it's not drinking, maybe you're like super angry in the car and you be yelling at people and cursing, got super road rage, or like little moments when you're by yourself that damn well you wouldn't be doing that stuff if anybody else was around you. That could also be a sign that you have a lot of like pent up anger and rage and aggression in your body.
Yeah, and for me, also in the moment, I don't really recognize when I'm angry in the moment until I see how it's affected somebody, or like everybody shut down, or they're like, dang, you don't gotta be so mean or whatever, right? So for me, I'm wondering, like, how, like, do you catch it in the moment? Do you feel it right in the moment that you're angry, or do you just react?
I used to just react. Now I notice in my body the first thing. So if my heart rate starts to get elevated and I feel like I have to say a thing or do a thing, and my jaw starts to clench and I feel a little fire, I might be doing a little Arnold fist with my palms. Like I have certain body things, but I know, like, if I have an intensity in my face and I'm kind of like, like a little growl face, but I want it, or I just notice like super intense urge to say something and make somebody understand my point. I'm like, oh, I'm angry.
And are you good at then stopping right there?
Most of the time. I'm human, so like we still out here working, but most of the time, or I'll be like, hey, I can't have this conversation right now. Let me come back to it. Or I just like take a breath before I say a thing to really hurt somebody's feelings. Because I also used to be very sharp with words and could really hurt people's feelings. But yeah, now I'm able to take a pause, if anything, is the best thing. But I notice because my body starts to react.
Mm-hmm. I will say sometimes in the moment, though, one thing that is helpful kind of most of the time is if I really just say like the thing that's bothering me, or say the thing, even if it's a little sharp, getting it out is good in that moment. And for me, even though sometimes that still can be a little too late, I can still be like, oh, like, you know what, I'm angry. And then you kind of can go into the, give me a second. But I don't know if that's still the best thing to do, is just to completely release it in that moment. If you could take that pause first, then I would say that comes before all the other things. But what are some other things then that you can do in the moment? Like if you feel angry, you like kind of realize like, all right, I'm angry. Now what do we do?
Yeah, so letting it out. I love that you said that it is important to say the thing, and you can preface it. Like, I don't know a good way to say this, but I'm very upset right now, and this is what's bothering me, right? But if you have a little buffer to let them know that you're not like, it's not an indictment on them, you're not being super rude and blamey, but you are sharing and expressing your feelings, I think that that's one step to start to heal our bond with anger, because again, it's just trying to protect us from whatever, feeling is going on. The last time we talked about it, we talked about, the last time we talked about anger on an episode, we were talking about healthier outlets, like screaming in the car, screaming in pillows, going to a martial arts or a HIIT class, lifting weights. See, I exercise, I run. Like when I know I got a funky ass attitude for no reason, like if I'm just irritated or irritable or frustrated, angry, I'm gonna go try to work out first. And it almost always works, but sometimes it doesn't. And then, you got to figure out other stuff. Like one time I went to hot yoga and I was pissed off, and I was even more mad after. I was mad through a whole 90-minute class.
More mindfulness-y type stuff when you're mad is actually like it just brews a little bit more. And I noticed for me, like I know that being active would be probably like helpful for my brain in the moment, and yet I tend to, if I'm angry or feel some kind of way, I do tend to just like sulk in, and like I'm just gonna think about it or not actually do a thing. But I have like yelled at people, not yelled like at them, but I'll make like noises, like a scream. Yeah, I'll go like, ah, and like walk away, which is helpful, but that still looks all, mean to people. And I do think that one of the things I noticed that I will do that probably is more of a defense mechanism when I'm angry is I'll laugh. Like, sometimes people you laugh are like, like ain't shit funny, but like you just be laughing like when something, you might feel any kind of way, actually some of the emotions that are uncomfortable. And I've also had bad experiences where that wasn't good either, because now it's like, all right, like I'm belittling whatever the situation is or whatever, right? But I would say that sometimes like laughing is like all right, you gotta do a little, and then you gotta like just walk away a little bit. Yeah, this is crazy right now. Like you really trying it right now. All right, I'm gonna do a little quick. Come back in. And so maybe sometimes like you just got to play that off, and then go do your countdown from 10 Oh gosh.
Yeah, I was about to say that's funny because I can feel myself get a little elevated when we talking. But yeah, I think that whenever we shut down, because that is a thing to not want to talk about it. But I think that that's the issue is when we start doing that so much, that's when it can build up and become other things.
Yeah.
And so as awkward as it is to find your own way to get stuff out is super important.
Yeah.
And so some things that I do like in the moment, I might do like a little, if I notice I'm clenching, I like clench real hard and I let it go for a second because that actually helps your body relax and release. Even if you don't like logically think it makes sense, it does. So you can tense your muscles and release. You can squeeze your hands and release, clench your jaw real hard and release. Big inhale, big exhale. If you are by yourself, like let's say you had a really bad meeting with your boss or something, they say like you can push real hard against a wall, like as hard as you can, try to get all that rage out of your body and then let it go. Because the wall ain't going nowhere. You're not punching nothing. You're not breaking your knuckles looking like an idiot. You're just pushing on a wall that's not going to move and you will be okay. Try to find a stud on the wall. So like if you have cheap walls or live in a cheap apartment, try to find like a corner or something like that so you're not pressing your hands through it.
These are funny and interesting tips. I just, in the time that I'm like that mad though, usually it's not always around somebody because you're right. Sometimes it will be like a meeting or something. You get off the meeting and you just, and I keep changing it from saying angry to blown because maybe I also have an issue with I need to identify things as anger. And I just went for 4 different things in that sentence, but I'm sorry. But now I'm here with identifying it as anger because also the other day I was talking to another friend and being like, man, I feel like I have some kind of an anger issue, but it's like I don't feel angry though, but like I know it's like anger. But really, I keep saying it's blown, and maybe part of it is like trying to deny you're angry because it feels like that's the bad guy thing to do. Is like, oh, I shouldn't be angry with them, or I should let it go, or you accept like that's how things are, that's how the person is. But maybe denying it is also part of the problem. I think we have to be able to accept that yes, we are angry, and then maybe that makes it easier to do these things. Because what I was starting to say is like, all right, if I'm angry, like, I don't know. I'm just not thinking that first, like energy release somehow. But like maybe if I start reframing it to in that first pause, be like, all right, I'm angry. And then you could think about the fact that now I need to release this somehow, as opposed to, I guess, really what my problem might be is a little bit of the suppression side.
Yeah, and I love that. So identifying like frustration, rage, being blown, feeling like whatever, all of those things are anger and they are healthy and that's okay. Like being frustrated is fine. It's okay to be irritable during the day. Like these things are okay. So the first thing is like validating yourself and your emotions. So that's like telling your inner child like, bro, it's cool. I got you. Because remember, most of the time anger is protecting you from another feeling. Whatever that feeling is, it could be fear, anxiety, hurt, pain, need, someone not meeting your needs, disappointment, not wanting to get let down, all of those things. And usually that's what is blocking you from, but it's only, I say, energy expenditure because a lot of times it gets built up in you and that's what needs to happen is you need to move your body to process emotion. So anytime we just lay somewhere, our emotion just gets stuck in our body and starts to build and pile on. And so the first part is all of that expenditure. So jumping up and down, maybe you like airboxing or whatever you doing right now, like you just like mad real quick and that's okay. And then you feel silly. And then you'll have a little bit of time to move into some of the more chill, reflective, meditative processes whenever you can figure out really what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. And this is where you can sit probably in a little bit more of mindfulness activities and whether it's to get it out of your mind. So like I was suggested to like free write and I'm always like, like you said at the beginning, like, all right, there's more than just journaling and just writing. But also still sometimes you just got to get things out on paper. In the same way, sometimes I'll just talk into my voice memo in my phone and just like talk until it's like, all right, now I'm thinking about what I'm saying. Then it's like, well, I'm done. Or same with writing. Like I'll write and then when I have to start thinking about like what to say next, and it's like, well, I'm just done. And that could be helpful too, especially because a lot of times with our anger, it feels kind of silly. So you may not want to just like call somebody like, girl, let me tell you, da-da-da. Like not every time. Sometimes it's like you just got to like get the feelings out. And really a lot of times when I look back at a note that I wrote or listen back to something I said, what I do here is hurt. Like it's like, oh, this is a hurt person. Like this is a hurt people situation. That's it. And then you could kind of dig into accepting what those feelings are.
That's what I was about to say. So somatic exercises, which are like feeling, hearing, like these sensory things for like going to a sound bath. I do self-soothing like when I'm angry sometimes, I'll have one arm and I'm kind of just rubbing my arm, and it makes me mad every time. I'm so mad, and then I start crying. And I'm like, damn, I really was just hurt, but I want to be big mad right now. And so a lot of times it is about finding a way to release that hurt, or even, but you got to allow yourself to have it. And a lot of times we don't
solve your
we
problems.
don't allow ourselves to have it, but we deserve those. Like, and that's also a really good way. If you cry, I promise you're not going to be mad afterwards, because you're going to get it all out. But so hugging yourself, maybe you're doing like the butterfly tap, which is like thumbs crossed on your chest, and then tapping. You can do body tapping, EFT techniques. There's a bunch of those that are like scientifically proven to help release emotions. You talked about journaling. We talk about breath work all the time. As long as your exhales are longer than your inhales, that is really good.
Yeah. Basically, like the fight or flight, you're telling yourself that you're not in fight or flight, that you are okay, that you're safe. And that is a good reminder for your body, because sometimes, like you said before, it's the body that will tell you that you feel some kind of way, even if you're trying to like fight it mentally. So still, I say for sure, if you're very in tune with your body, then you can listen to that first. There was something else that you found that was very interesting about certain foods and things to eat, which I never had heard of that. Tell us more about like your diet and how that can affect.
Yeah. So in Ayurveda, they have different body types. And so it's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And so you're supposed to eat according to your body type, which is kind of similar to like the endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph. It's just how your body digests food. If you should eat more cold things or more hot things. But if you notice that you find yourself being angry a lot of the time, and you are doing work, but you're also eating a bunch of hot foods, a bunch of spicy foods, a bunch of sour foods, those are also considered hot in your system, which can be an overload in hot energy in your body, which can make you more irritable. Which is really interesting too. And so this is Ayurveda, Ayurveda, is an ancient Indian science about how to eat and take care of your body. Yoga is actually like a sister science to that. And so yoga's for your mind, Ayurveda is actually for your body. And it's just a way to better eat and take care of yourself. So even thinking about the things that you're intaking, if you notice that you are angry and you're drinking a lot or doing a lot of drugs and stuff like that, you should probably chill out on that until you figure out and heal what's going on. I'm not saying you can't do those things, but until you heal, it becomes a lot easier whenever you don't have all the extra stuff in your system.
And then I wonder if it really would make you feel better to like have a cold drink or like get an ice cream or something like that. I wonder if that is a big mood changer when you're angry with the cool stuff.
I am most irritable when I'm hot in general, but I've always noticed like the little like spa waters type of things always feel very refreshing to me. And even if it's just like a moment of reprieve from whatever's going on, it does help, at least for me. And I do not keep an Ayurvedic diet, but you should definitely look into it if that's something that you're really like working into. But it just is a reminder that everything in our environment, what we're eating, what we're hearing, what we're watching, where we're putting ourselves, all this energy surrounding us does affect our emotions big time.
Yeah. And all of that affects like your ability to process those emotions efficiently, and to be more clear-minded when you do. Because I definitely noticed that my health is very much connected to the way that I deal with all of those things as well. And so again, it's a matter of really kind of knowing yourself and paying attention to how your eating habits and, like she said, drinking and drugs or whatever, right? Sleep, all of those things can make us more of a ground for being more irritable more quickly or reacting more quickly or being less able to take the pause we need to take, right? And so I think, of course, that having that foundation and knowing yourself and paying attention to how things allow you to process and do differently is something worth looking into. Anything else that we could think about?
Yeah. So whenever I did my yoga teacher training, one thing we did is we wrote down like things that we wanted to let go of, and then we burned them. And so I think that destroying a physical representation of whatever the thing is you're angry at, or the hurt, or the thing you're processing, can sometimes be helpful. So maybe burning it safely in like a little metal bowl or something, or ripping something up and throwing it away, crumbling it up and like chunking against the floor. I was teaching at this event in Inglewood a few weeks ago, and one of the moms was sharing one of her ways that she processes anger. She said she'll go to Dollar Tree. This isn't necessarily sustainable, but it's her way to process. She'll go to Dollar Tree and buy a bunch of like dollar glass things and go home and tear them hoes apart. Too. Yeah, she's like, they're $1. Go home, or $2.15 now, whatever. But go home and break them. Definitely break easily. Yeah, pow, pow, pow. And or like go to one of those rage rooms, which is probably more expensive than the Dollar Tree version. And just like actually break a thing or do that, and it like feels good and very cathartic to her.
I can imagine. I don't think of like broken things to get out of a rage, but I have been to a I think it was like a New Year's party one time where a girlfriend had a bunch of women over and we wrote things down on the paper and then we burned it. And it was so funny because I remember I had something in my story from it. And one of the, a guy I used to talk to in the past, he's like, man, my name better not be on one of those, bitch. And I was dying laughing. But that's how we joke. He's like, man, my name better not have been on one of them. And I was like, man, people be knowing they be trash. But anyway, that's just a random ass funny story. But I feel like I didn't feel any different about burning it. And yet also like, you know, there's something to just the feelings of an action to match, you know, whatever that intentionality is. So,
the last one I would say is don't break your stuff, because there's a very like intense urge to throw things. Like when you get mad, maybe your phone or something. Don't do that, because you just got to pay for it and fix it afterwards. But
100% don't put your hands on people either.
Absolutely not.
That's obviously going to get you
I
caught
thought that
up.
was a given. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
But I've definitely punched pillows before. I've been mad, like, oh, doom, 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 and, oh yeah. So whatever you got to go Super Saiyan, as long as it's not a person or any of your own things that you have to replace.
Absolutely. So definitely like keep all these things in mind. Understand that anger is something that we all feel, and yet it is something that you have to process. Otherwise, it's going to build and build. It may turn into chronic anger. So if you are somebody you feel like, man, I'm always just a little on the edge or irritable, that may be something you want to break down. And if you feel like you have a good method or way of dealing with anger as it comes up, and that, you know, this is not really a big issue for you, then congratulations. And let us know.
Share some tips.
Yeah, share some tips and let us know, you know, some things that you might do when you're angry.
So a lot of these things that we shared, like, are things that, you know, you do when you're by yourself or whenever you have more time or all that. Like, what are some things we can do, like when you're in a space when you can't leave? Like if you're in the middle of a meeting or in the middle of an argument and you notice that you like start to get blown or your anger starts to pop up or you get triggered by something, like what are some of those things that you can do like in the moment?
I would just say that's where you hold on to it. You repress it, you hold on to it. And when that meeting is over, then you still need to go through the things we've talked about before you reach out to the person or reach out to somebody and then address things. So I think that a lot of times if you're feeling something around a lot of folks, the best thing to do is like just to chill and like just be hot and chill to yourself for a second.
Yeah. And if you are like in an argument or something, always take a big inhale, big exhale. Try to take a pause before you do say something super harmful. Like your feelings matter, but in that moment you might not be able to articulate it. And also it's really hard to articulate when you're yelling at somebody. Like they're not going to hear you, and that's not going to be a safe space for that conversation. And so just thinking about how you can like finish what you need to, get your space, and then be able to come back more well-rounded.
Absolutely. Alrighty, well, we hope that this was helpful for you. If you have some angry folks in your life, go ahead and send them this on a slide.
Please.
And we hope you have a great, anger-free, preferably week.
Bye, y'all.